Hey guys, and welcome to today's drawing tutorial. Today we're going to draw this face, and the goal of this tutorial is that you should be able to draw a face, maybe as an under drawing for your watercolor painting or for an oil painting or just for a drawing. I usually do drawings and then I scan them or copy them and transfer them on a watercolor paper or on another paper to finish them. I almost never just draw directly on my final drawing paper, but that is totally up to you. Yeah, so we just today cover the basics and how to make a quick drawing that looks good. So usually I'm going to start with the nose, because I find this the most easiest way to start. Also, usually I don't really draw the perfect face proportions. I mainly draw the eyes a little bit bigger and the nose a little bit smaller. My final result will definitely look a little bit different than this model, just because these are my preferences. Sometimes I change it in Photoshop, so I just change it until it's perfect, but then I transfer it. So you will just see what I will do during this lesson. Okay, let's start with the nose. So this is the space of my paper, so I will maybe start here for the nose and just making approximately, so this is the middle of the space, so I have to start somewhere here, and this is way too far at the edge. So I'm starting with the corners of the nose. The face is a little bit tilted, here. So this is the corner. And then we have the nostrils, and I'm starting relatively rough. I don't use the eraser many times because I can do that later on. It will just waste too much time. So here are the nostrils. Then we have the lips approximately here, and then I compared the difference, so between the individual facial features. So here, for example, is the corner of the nose, and then we have the corner of the lips here, roughly. Obviously this is not perfect, and yeah, I think maybe when you draw a line between the nose and the lips, those dots are maybe more here, more at the bottom. Then we have the line of the lip. And here I will just roughly indicate the upper lip of the model. Also, the model that I used for this drawing lesson is just a fashion model that I found on the Pull and Bear website. So not a stock photo, just fashion magazine model. I find these references, these photos, like super helpful for drawing, so I oftentimes borrow it from them. If you change them, it will not have any problems for copyright reasons. Also, if you draw them and it looks totally different than like the original, should be okay. Also, it's like a large company, they will probably not say anything, they probably don't mind anyways. Just for those of you who are curious. Okay. I think I made the lips a little bit too large, so I will use the eraser to make them a little bit smaller. Okay, also this is a kneaded eraser. This one is pretty stained actually and dirty. It's not the best one, but I can just knead it a bit, then it should be okay. The great thing with it, I can just go over the surface and my crappy underdrawing fades a bit, and I can just add some clearer lines on top. Okay, so the nose goes roughly to this part here. Then we have the eye, so I will make the eye bigger. I'm not so happy with those small eyes. But first I just realized here, like this little, the cupid bow, I don't know how it's called. It's in the middle of the nose, and then we have those slight rounded arcs here, and I just want to get them a little bit more accurate, like that. Okay, roughly. Then, so the eye starts here at that point, and it ends like when we draw a line from the corner of the lip to the eye. It's roughly at this position here. Also, we need to pay attention to the slight tilt of this face. Maybe I can draw like a guideline here in the middle. Also for the eyes, they are tilted as well. I always find it difficult to incorporate those slight tilts of the face. So this is difficult because your brain always makes it straight, and it will correct it for you. Okay, here we have those shadows here. I like to indicate them just roughly with those geometrical shapes like that. And then for the eyes, I also just make rough shapes in the beginning. So I can change this later on. I think it's easier this way. Okay, so these are the eyes. Then we have the eyebrows. Sometimes it's easier to just don't be super like accurate in the beginning and just roughly indicate everything with those rounded shapes, or also with geometrical shapes like triangles. This can be helpful sometimes. So here are approximately the eyebrows, like that. So they're probably a little bit more at the bottom, a little bit lower. They are not that high. This is something that I do as well. I like to make the eyebrows higher than they actually are. So this is like a bias I have that I do. Okay, here we have the pupils, the irises. So you see that I did the eyes way larger than here. Normally they would be way smaller, but I really like it. I really like large eyes, so bear with me. Okay, then here I just look how long or how large this gap is here, the difference, the distance to the edges of her face. And yeah, I just make some marks here at the edges of her face. And then we have like the jaw line approximately here. Also, I find her jaw a little bit large, but this is just my own preference. So I kind of changed some of the appearances while I draw to match my own preferences, if that makes sense. So you can do it like you want. If you want to have it super realistic, you can do that. I do all those changes in Photoshop, and then I transfer the image onto my drawing, onto my paper. So when I don't do that, when I draw directly from a photo, I do the changes while I draw. That saves time. Then otherwise I would just do it twice. This wouldn't make sense. Okay, so this is just a bad shape of the face, but it will get better. Okay, so here is the jawline approximately. As I said, I just made it a little bit more slim. Also her chin, just a tiny bit. Okay, I will also just make her lips tiny bit slimmer, like that. While always have the slight tilt of the face in mind. Okay, so the hair pretty much goes almost to the eyes on each side of the face. Then we have her neck. And some of the wild hair, okay. Like that. Okay, now I will just use my eraser and just take some of the lines away because they are too strong and they don't look very beautiful, but this way we have a semi-transparent like underdrawing, and then I can go over it again and just make it a bit more prettier. Okay. I'm not happy with the mouth, so I think I start with that first. And I will just make it a little bit more slim. I'm starting with the corners of the mouth, and they are always darker, so I just indicate it with these dark triangles that I use here. Then we have like an arc here in the middle, so I will carefully try to get this arc here. Like that. So I always try to have beautiful shapes and forms everywhere, so I try to get a nice form for the lips here. And this side is more slower than this side because of the tilt, so I I need to do that on my drawing too. Okay, then like the lip goes, it's not, so I drew it a bit too large, so I have to make it slimmer. So I'm going this time, I'm drawing the line way upper this time, and the same on the right side. So I think the shape of the lip looks better now. Then I will probably have to correct the jawline too, so I will make it a bit slimmer. It's also not bad to just slightly indicate cheekbone here. It just helps to understand the face a bit, and as you can see, we have a shadow here from the cheek and it goes along the shape of her face. So we can just indicate this shadow slightly here with the pencil as well. And now I will need to check where the jaw is, so, and at which point it looks the best. So the distance here is pretty small, but since I have, like, my proportions are a bit different, I have to see what distance looks good here. Okay, also I will definitely make the chin a little bit smaller here. I think now it looks even more like the reference photo, although I changed a lot already. Okay, like that maybe. Maybe a little bit more to the chin. I'm always like correcting it and changing it until I'm happy. It's not really a straightforward process here. Whenever I draw, it's kind of messy. Okay, yeah, maybe the distance here needs to be a bit larger, maybe a bit more to her jaw here. Okay. Now I have to correct the nose. I just realized the left nostril is way too like the whole nose actually is way too far on the left, so yeah, I will have to correct that. So here we have the right nostril again, then the slight tilt. Obviously nose and this cupid bow and the nose tip have to be in one, have to be aligned. Otherwise we would have an asymmetrical face, and we don't want that. Okay, the nostrils. Nostrils are always difficult. I might just indicate them with slight arcs here, so that they don't look super messy. Like that. Then we have in the middle of the nose this little like thing, this little piece of skin, I don't know how it's called. Yeah, it's always good to just draw everything you see, and don't draw things that you imagine they are there, but in reality they are not. So just mimic what you see on your reference. Also, there's like a lot of shadows there, so I will just add some shadows and it doesn't look so weird. Okay, here we have the edges of the nose. Okay, like that. We have here around the corner relatively dark shadow. It's almost like a contour, so I'm just make that a bit stronger. Maybe I will take it away later on. It changes all the time. Okay, I think I can continue with the eyes. I have the feeling that my eyes are too far away from the nose, and also they are too far away from each other. So because I just made the nose a little bit smaller, I will also have to adjust the eyes again. So this is my messy drawing process. I might develop a better one in future, we will see. But this is when I do drawings, they emerge like that. Okay, just again for the eyes, I use these rough shapes. Okay, let's see. Here we have the shadow, the nose, and it kind of goes this way along, and on the right side we have the same shadow. Also, like, the face is tilted, so I have to pay attention to the slight tilt here, which is really difficult. Okay. When I do these rather like straight lines, I find it easier to get the right shape of the eye, because then I can slowly build up the exact shape and I don't have to erase. And it's a bit more accurate than these wobbly lines that I did before. So like that maybe. I will correct it, that's for sure. Okay, here we have the shape of this shadow here. And then we have the eyebrow. Okay. The eyebrow goes roughly goes this way. And then the eyebrow on the other side. Okay, like that. Okay, now I just realized that my face is a bit too wide. You see the difference here is super small, and on my face it's too large. So, and this was because I did the eyes too far away. So I will have to correct that now. Okay, approximately like that. Here on the left side as well was a bit too wide. But also the face, it's kind of round. It goes like, it's slim here, but then it goes a little bit like it makes an arc. And yeah, I can decide to mimic it like on the reference photo, or I can change the form of my face, the shape. I tend to change it. I will see how it looks. So I'm always making those decisions while I draw. I can never really say what looks good until I have drawn it. So yeah. I apologize for this rather messy method here of working. So this lady has a white jaw here, relatively white, but maybe I like it, so maybe it's good to not make it too small. Okay, let's see. So here's her jaw. Then maybe I will do the chin. Maybe I will do this distance here a little bit slimmer, a little bit smaller, like that. Okay, so I'm definitely more happy with it than some minutes ago. My drawings always start as ugly monsters and then in the end they might look better. So okay, then just make the lips a little bit darker here. Okay, before I go into details, I will check if I am happy with this one or if I need to change something. Maybe the upper lip is a little bit too large, so especially because like this distance here might be a bit too large, so I'm just changing that. Yeah, I think that looks better. Okay, now I would probably just change a little bit from the lower lip here. Also, I like to make those little round shapes on the edges of the lip, just to indicate the shadow there. It's okay. Just those little things sometimes can be helpful. Okay, let's change the lower lip. Okay, I will erase the line that I did here, because otherwise it looks as she had an open mouth, which she hasn't. So the middle arc, I drew it a bit too small, so I will just make it a bit larger. In this cupid bow here in the middle, I find it always difficult to get it right, so I would just go over the same area until I'm happy with it. Like with oils or with, yeah, I think with oils you can go over each area until you are perfectly happy with it. And this is the reason why I don't draw directly on watercolor paper, because every time I erase and I change my drawing, I hurt and I destroy the paper in the worst case. So I can be as messy and unorganized as I want on this paper, and then I can scan it and can transfer it on my final drawing paper, on my final watercolor paper. And I also don't feel any pressure, because even if I destroy this paper, it doesn't matter. When I scan it and I transfer it onto my final paper, no one noticed. So I find it very freeing, this process. Okay, so she has a shadow under her lip. So just indicate that here. Yeah, I think I like the lip part. Maybe this here on my side it's too large, so I should probably make it a little bit slimmer here, just a tiny bit. When I don't film my drawing like I do now, I tilt my drawing all the time, so this is not a completely realistic way of how I paint. Normally I tilt it, so if you draw, I definitely recommend it that you tilt your painting to and turn it all the way, because then you can make better lines. So if I want to make a line like on her lip, I have to kind of turn my back and change my position until I have the perfect line, instead of just turning my painting or my drawing. So don't feel like you have to do it like I do. This is only for the tutorial, because otherwise I couldn't show it to you. Okay, here, like this gap here, this distance is wrong. It's too large, so I'm correcting it. Actually, like her, as I said in the beginning, her jaw or her cheek, her face is round, and actually I should, the line should go like this, but I don't want to do that. It's like a dent. I would rather make her face a little bit slimmer. Just a tiny bit, maybe like this. I'm not sure. So this is always hard for me to determine, because I want to make a beautiful drawing. Even though it looks good on the photo, as a drawing it might not be as beautiful, because you have all the color in the photo, and in the drawing you don't have that. So I like to change that. Let me see, what can I do? Yeah. First I will change the forehead here, because you have all the hair that pretty much hides a lot of areas of the forehead. Then we have the distance here. So what I do now is I check just the proportions and see how I should do the edges and the borders of the face. So just making some areas a bit darker can help with that. Let's see. Okay, I might just make the jawline here a little bit smaller. Pull it up a bit. Like that. Okay. Then, okay, the irises are approximately here. Roughly here. What you can do at home also is to use a mirror. I'm not going to do that now, because then I would have to change the camera position again, and it's a lot of work, so I will just trust my eye here, but I can recommend it. When I do drawings without recording or filming it, I'm using a mirror all the time. Or you can scan it and use Photoshop or your graphic program of choice, and then you can flip your painting digitally and see what is wrong with your painting, or with your drawing. It's very useful. I do that also a lot of times. Okay. Let's see. We have her cheekbone here. I think the distance here is wrong. I think this is what's wrong with the drawing at the moment. So we have the tilt of the face, and then we have the nose. And will just make the tilt here a bit stronger in the nose, like that. Okay, and I think the distance between the eye and the nose is a bit too large, so I have to erase it again. It's a little bit annoying, but yeah, sometimes it is like that. Okay, so the end, like the corner of the eye, I believe is here. So I'm going to change that. Okay. So I just indicate the eyes again like I did it before, just relatively roughly. I believe this looks better now. So we have the those lines here, those guidelines. I think this looks okay so far. When we draw a line like this, it should end somewhere here. Probably I need to just make the draw a bit larger again. Okay, here is the inside of her nose. Also, I'm using HB pencil all the time for the initial sketch. We'll be using a different pencil later on. Okay, here we have the iris, and you can also draw like a line from the iris here and compare it with your drawing. It's always useful to make those guidelines. Okay, approximately here, probably. Okay, then the shadows again. So this is not the most beautiful shadow, but hopefully it will get better later. Okay, here we have the eyebrows again, and on the right side the same. Okay, it got a little bit messy, so I will carefully remove a bit of my pencil here because it looks super messy. Okay, then again, now I can include maybe a little bit more details, so like a little bit like that here, the lower line of her eye, the lash line or the waterline, I don't know exactly how it's called, and here on the left side the same, of course. Also, like always keeping in mind the slight tilt of the face, which is super difficult, I know. And here we have her eyelid. Okay. So her irises are not completely like filling out the eye. We have a slight gap between the iris and the white of the eye. So I will do that in my drawing too. Okay. here we have the lash line. I'm trying to get the roughly the shape of the eye here right. Here is the fold of her eyelid. Also, I try to draw both eyes at the same time. Otherwise, they would never be even and they would look really weird. Okay, I will fill out the irises here. Then it's a little bit easier to get the shape right. And the left eye is a little bit too large. I think both eyes are now still larger than on my reference, but they are definitely smaller like in the beginning of my drawing, which is good. So I like them more like that. Okay, now I'm just making here the shadows. Then it's easier for me to compare my drawing with the reference. If I indicate shadows and just values in general, it's way easier to compare it to the actual to the reference picture. Sorry, I don't know where my brain went. Sometimes it just doesn't work. Okay, so here we have the shadow of the edge of the face. Also, when I do shadows, I like to indicate the outline of the shadow and then I just fill in the inside like that, like the lazy way. Okay, yeah, but okay, this one didn't really look good, so I just erase that. Okay, here we have the shadow from the corner, like that. Roughly like that, I think it's okay. Then we have her hair somewhere here. And then the end of her face. And we have it on the other side, roughly here. I'm not so happy, still not so happy with the shape of the face. But I will first do the shadows. Maybe it's just because I haven't indicated the shadows yet. So here we have those two shadows that I think they just follow the jawline. So they're basically shadows that come from the jawbone. Okay. I will indicate it very slightly. I think like that. Okay. Then I can just darken this jawline here a bit and her chin. And here for the inside shadow, I will just make a contour around the shadow again and just make the shadow a little bit darker here. And here as well. That okay. Now, okay, first I have to correct the eye here, like that. Now I can start to just darken some of the areas. I'm still not completely happy with the lines of the borders of the face, but what I will do, I will just let them a little bit lighter than the rest of the face, so they will pretty much go in the background and they will not be super strong in the foreground. And then it will probably look good because they're not so prominent. Okay, what I will do now is working a bit on the eyes and make them a bit more detailed, because they look quite rough still. But with the overall proportions, I think I'm happy. So it isn't perfectly like the reference, but I didn't intend it to be like that. Whenever I draw, it will always look a bit different, a bit more like comic-like, or a bit more childlike. So I'm happy with that. So here for the inside of the eye, I drew it a bit too dark, so I will just erase a bit. Also for the details, I'm using the 4B pencil because I can get darker, and the pencil lead is softer, and I can make easier, like I can draw easier on the paper. With the other pencil I would have to pressure a lot, and yeah, that wouldn't make much sense. The higher the number on the pencils is, the softer and darker the pencils get. So like an HB pencil is very hard, and a 4B or a 7B or even an 8B pencil is super soft. You can use these for filling out larger areas, for example. So here also the lower like lash line is a bit too dark, so carefully work on that area here. Also, it's definitely super important to view your drawing from the distance. I can't do it right now because of my weird position here with the camera, but you at home should definitely do it. Okay, so the irises here are not completely correct. So this one looks rounder than this one, and I will change that. This looks a bit too round here. And I will just change that up a bit. Also here, where the iris meets the lashes, you have shadow on it, so you can always pretty much make this upper area of the iris dark because there's a shadow. You can pretty much do that all the time. I will just make the lash line a bit darker, also on the left side. Okay, now I will switch to the other pencil again, because I want to just get some areas here right and correct them. So the eyebrows, for example, like that, and here. So whenever I'm not certain where I want to place my line, I use the HB pencil because it is lighter. And then when I'm certain, okay, this is the line, I'm definitely sure I want to have this darker, I would use the other pencil. So I'm not completely certain about the eyebrows, for example, just working a bit on the shape here. And we don't have the hair yet, so I want to make a nice way how to make the hair. I think I will use the other pencil and just indicate some hairlines. Just let it a bit rough. So she has these nice curls. And what I do is, like, I'm changing the technique, and I'm not precise like I do on the face. Instead, I'm working rough now. So I'm using the pencil which is softer, which with I can make very nice soft lines and also dark lines. So I'm starting at the end of a hair, for example on here, and then I just make a dynamic movement like that. So the hair is kind of very like white, and yeah, I will just indicate it a bit. I'm also doing all the movements with my whole arm, so I do not only use my ankle and my fingers, or my wrist and my fingers. Instead, I'm using the whole arm, which just gives you better lines. So now, normally I would have twisted the paper so that I can get the line better, because when I start here, I can make a good line, but now when I start here on the right side, it gets a bit tricky, so I have to go to the left side. So that will be tricky. So probably the lines here on the right side are not going to be as good as on the left side. Okay, I think this is nice. It's just kind of rough. And then when you work with watercolors, for example, I would probably just fill out the complete hair area with one color, so I don't draw the individual hairs there. So with hair, I'm always very lazy, and I just draw the approximate form there. Okay. What I will do now is that I will now merge this rough drawing there into the fine drawing that we just did here. So here we have still some of the hair, and I will just make some darker areas here with a soft pencil. Just to make the drawing a little bit more interesting. Those nice curls here. Okay, now I need to sharpen it a bit for the details. For lines like the hair, the pencil mustn't be sharp. It should be a little bit round so that you can get those rather thick lines. Now I want to continue with the details, and for that I will need a slightly sharper pencil. So I'm going to start, going to start with her eyes here. I'm just working here on the borders of the iris. She also has some lashes here. It's not super strong, so I'll just indicate some of her lashes. Also, the white of the eye definitely isn't white, so I will just make it a bit darker, and for that I'm using the HB pencil and just slightly go over the eyes so that they look a little bit more realistic. Okay, the same goes for the upper lip. Just filling it in a bit. And then for the border of the lip. For the dark areas in the lip, I'm using the other pencil again, 4B. So here I'm just redrawing the contours of the lighter drawing beneath. Okay, we also need the nostrils, so I'm just redrawing them too. Carefully, of course, I don't want to have super dark nostrils here. Okay, then I will just make the irises a bit darker. You can already use this drawing for an underdrawing. What I now do is just to make the drawing look a bit better, a bit more interesting. Maybe if you want to frame it and you don't want to use it as an underdrawing for a new artwork and you just want to finish it, you can use some of these techniques. If you just want to use it for your underdrawing, you can just take the drawing like it is and you don't have to do anything more in it. I just, since I don't want to reuse the drawing for next painting, I will just make it a bit more interesting. For the eyebrows, I will just add some hair and make it look more like actual eyebrows. Again, I'm using the softer pencil for this. Like that. So for the eyes, I want to add a little bit more detail here, make it more interesting. Okay, so this is okay for an underdrawing, and you could let it be like this and it could be finished. I would like to add some shadows just because I'm curious how the drawing would look like. So at first I will just completely fill out the face with a base like color. It's not really a color, it's just a color pencil, obviously. So I have to tilt my painting here, or my drawing. because otherwise I won't get a good base color here. It's relatively uneven and I want to have it more evenly. So what I will do is just to smudge the color pencil a bit. You can use a towel for that. I will just use my finger. It will just give the drawing a bit more an even character, which is good. And now I can add another layer of the shadow, especially here in the corners. We have the darker shadows. Okay. The lip should be relatively smooth as well. So I'm just smudging it a bit with the face. And now I will just fill it out here a bit with the color pencil. Now I just use circular movements, the same strategy that I use when I do my color pencil work. So you can get some of the shadows here. And here I'm just adding the shadows of the left side of her face and under her eye as well. So now I will use the 4B pencil and just work a bit here on the color value. So with the HB pencil you cannot really get super dark, so I will have to switch to the 4B pencil. This way we can also get the darker color values here. So here on the inside of her lash line we have, or like the waterline, we have a dark area, and here in the left corner of her eye it's rather dark too, so we'll just fill out this area here with color pencils, and then her eyelid as well. With a softer pencil you can also make those gradients a little bit easier. Just smudge them a bit. Sometimes you have to go over the other areas as well, because they can be smudged and then yeah, you have to kind of correct them. So We have some shadows here. And here again, this area should be darker. If I want to be even darker, I can use charcoal or just the even softer pencil if I wanted to have maybe a photorealistic black and white drawing. I don't really do black and white drawings, so I just don't need it. When I do drawings, I mostly really do them as under drawings for my paintings. But you can do it, so it's possible. Just use a softer pencil for the more darker areas, or even fine liner for lashes or something like that. Okay, now I want to just add here some shadows on the right side of her face. So for the neck portion, I will just add some cross-hatching here. It doesn't have to be super perfect. It looks nicer if you just alternate your pencil strokes a bit here and there, so that it doesn't look super clean everywhere and like a photo. It's not nice when everything looks like a photo. I like it when you have like the contrast between maybe the realistic stuff and the abstract stuff. So here for the corner of her lips, I'm just adding more shadow, a little bit smudging it. And here as well for there's like a little line between where the lip ends and her skin starts of the face, and I will just indicate this line here. Then do I have my other eraser? Yes, I have this eraser. But I was looking for an even smaller one because I wanted to just have the irises here. They're a little bit wobbly, so I want to have them very like the edges a little bit better. But I think I only have this one here. I have to work with that. I can, however, just form a very tiny tip here with the kneaded eraser and see if that helps. Okay, let's see if that works. I need to get the other pencil here, and I have to draw over the eye again because I erased that away too. Okay, here we have a slight shadow under her eye. And then on the right side of her face we have a strong shadow too. A little bit smudging it. It's the fastest way. It's not really the most elegant way to draw, but it goes very fast. So I like that. I'm an impatient person. So here we definitely need some shadows. I'm just following the shadow that I see on the reference. Here are the lashes. We have some shadows here directly over the eye, and here directly under the eye, and also on the left side. I really like to work on always on both sides simultaneously. I find it just easier. Also, squinting the eyes always helps, because then you can just see the color values better. So just smudging it a bit. Here as well we need more shadows. Okay, and now here on the right side, the same pretty much. Okay, I will add some shadows around her nose here, and I think I just indicate them with those lines before, then instead of just making those circular wobbly shapes there. But I'm not sure, just smudging it a bit. No, that wasn't so good. Sorry. I will just have to carefully take it away a bit. Yeah, I might not. Yeah, I might have to take this complete nose area away. Okay, just blending it a bit in. Now I have to go over it and just repairing the damage that I did. Yeah, this happens so often. It's a little bit experimenting with every piece. Okay, I will just carefully try to make like a soft border here. Just blending it a bit. Yeah. And now some shadows for the lips. So this is not the most perfect drawing that you have ever seen probably. If you want to have a super realistic drawing, then you have to be more precise than I am. So just put more, like focus more on the details, on the color values. And then don't use only a finger for smudging. Then you don't have the problems that I just had. There are like those paper smudgers, I don't know how they're called, but you can use them and then it should go easier. So here I'm just very carefully adding some shadows with the HB pencil to the nose. Just very careful. Then a little shadow here under her mouth. Then I make the lip a little bit darker. Maybe darken the shadow under her eye. What I do now is the same what I do when I work with color pencils, is they jump around. I'm squinting my eyes right now, so I'm looking only at the color values and I'm just jumping around and comparing what areas need to have more shadows and need to be darker. So for example here around her nose, around her mouth and under her nose, we have a very slight light shadow, but it's definitely visible. And also there's a little line over her lips, which is kind of light, and I will just try to work around this line here, so that hopefully the lips will just pop out a bit more. Yeah, I think this definitely made the drawing a bit more realistic. Then we have a similar line here under her lip. Wow, my hand already hurts. This is typical. So for the little line here in between, I will just make it a bit softer and just work on this shadow. Also here we have a dark area, so I will mimic this on my drawing too. And it just goes here under the lip, and the lower lip almost blends into the skin. You can't really make a distinction between the color values there. And I just rendered this too. So in the beginning I just used the contours to draw everything, but now the more work I put into making everything more realistic, the more all the contours just kind of fading away, and they are kind of over painted and overdrawn with all the shadows, and this makes the drawing then more realistic. If you don't have any contours or lines, you just have a lot of soft shapes and areas that blend into each other. Still squinting my eyes so that I can see the color values better. So this area basically is pretty dark. When you use the harder pencils like the HB pencil and you go over your drawing, it's a bit more softer. When I use the 4B pencil, I can see the grain of the paper a bit stronger. So if you want to make a very realistic and very soft drawing, you will probably have to use harder pencils, maybe HB or maybe even harder pencils, and then you have to just go over your drawing over and over again until you have a very soft and perfect surface. Takes longer, of course, than what I do here. I'm just impatient. Oops. The tip broke. Happens to me all the time. Okay, now I will fill in the nostrils here. And also we have a couple of shadows here that I haven't drawn yet. So I'm going to do that now. So here on the right side, and a little bit like on the tip here. Also the tip needs to be darker like that. I'm very happy with it. It isn't perfect, but I'm definitely happy with it. My nose, I just realized, is too far, too close to the lips, but I don't mind. It's okay. Okay, I would like to fill my eraser. I just want to take a little bit away here from this arc. That was a bit too much. So like that. I'll smudge it a bit. Just indicate the end of the lip so that it's a little bit better, more visible. And also on the left side. Okay, what else? I would say the eyebrows. So the eyebrows aren't filled in. I'm just using the HB pencil for the first layer here. Smudging it a bit. I'm not very happy here with the corner of the nose, what I did there. I will try to maybe blend it a bit better into the other areas here. Also, we have like a little bit of a shadow here. So I'm going to carefully add this here too. Just very carefully. This whole shadow here is definitely darker, but maybe I will first here work on the eyebrow. Blending it in a bit. And now for the shadow here. Also here the shadow on the forehead is a bit different. Like it's not perfectly like one straight line. It's more wobbly. So I will try to make this here too. Like that. Okay, now I'm going to use the darker pencil again. And here's like a little curl, and then we have the eyebrow, which has to be darker, so it's not dark enough. And the lashes as well. So this pencil just isn't really black, so I would have preferred maybe an even softer pencil for the dark areas, especially now where I decided to make it a bit more realistic. A darker pencil would have been helpful. So, but I think it's still okay. So here for the inside, a little detail here. So, oopsala, we need shadow here too. Probably this area is a bit darker as well. Okay. So I added some details that I didn't record because I'm turning the paper all the time, but I wanted to show you how I do this. So for example, I hold it like that, so I hold it away from me, and then I look on it and I see in the distance, okay, what is wrong with my drawing? What can I do to improve it? And then when I found something, I just draw it closer again. For example, like here, this area on her nose, and then I just add a tiny little detail. Then I hold my drawing away again, squinting my eyes, and just look for another detail that I might find. Yeah, so I hope this was helpful for you and you could learn something new, hopefully. Yeah, my drawing style is a little bit messy, but I hope it was still useful for you. And yeah, this is just the over-the-top version for your watercolor drawing. You don't need that, you just need the basic lines. This is just for those of you who might want to practice drawing and practice coloring your drawing only with graphite and with pencils. Yeah, so I hope I see you in the next video. Bye bye!